And then we're going to go to page 163. 163. Um, this page is review again. I think the rest of the book is review, by the way. We only have this. I think we have two more lessons after this. So we're going to finish grammar early, but that's okay. We can just focus on writing once we're done with grammar. But this is review about quotations. You guys already know about those. It's when you have a story that has speaking parts in it. And there's two parts to a speaking sentence or a quotation sentence. The quotation marks, we know about those. Those are those little marks around what is spoken. So it says they indicate words that are spoken. The quote is the sentence in quotation marks. And then the attribution is the person speaking and the speaking verb. So there's two parts to that sentence. The part that is actually what they say, that's called the quote. And then the part where it tells who said it and how they said it, that's the attribution. So there's the quote and the attribution. And sometimes they come in different orders, and that's okay. You can mix it up like that. It says, read the story below, place quotation marks around the words that are spoken, insert attributions, use ideas listed in the margin or words of your choice. I think it's kind of easier for this lesson or this practice to use the ones they suggest, which are on the side here. So look on the side of the page. You see where it says A, B, C, D, E? We have Mama answered, the little bird cried, the mama bird told her baby, Mama wisely concluded, and the baby bird asked. So this is a conversation between a mama bird and a baby bird. And this part in the middle is all the things that they say. These are all the quotes. And your job is to figure out where we can plug in these attributions in those sentences. So notice how one of them was asked. This one way down here, the baby bird asked. So that would go with a question, right? When they're asking a question, that attribution makes sense to put it with that. And then when there's an answer to the question, that's when we use mama answered. And then concluded, that's probably going to be at the end. So that just gives you an idea of where the story's going. Okay. So, um, the first one, it just says, watch those two silly men. And that is going to be what she says. So we're going to put quotation marks around that part. And then I think the first one makes sense to say the mama bird told her baby. This one, which is C. The mama bird told her baby. So we're going to write that in on the line. The mama bird told her baby. And then I'm going to go ahead and cross out C because we already used it. So now I'm going to have you guys take turns with the rest of it. I'll wait till you write that down. So watch those two silly men, the mama bird told her baby. They are fighting over who crosses first. So that's another thing that's said here. I'm going to put quotations around that. And then there's it's indented. So this is a new person talking here. Will the tall man win? Well, it might be the same baby bird, actually. So since that's a question, Harmony, what do you think? Which one of these attributions goes with a question? Will the tall man win? Which one on the side here? Uh-oh, you're muted. I didn't get to hear that.
What? The baby bird asked her mom.
Good. Right here, E, because it's a question. The baby bird asked. So go ahead and write that one in. The baby bird asked. And it is a different person talking, or character, I should say, because the mama bird talked first, and now the baby bird's talking. And now we're going back to, I think, the mama here, but it says, He looks stronger. Christian, which one of these attributions goes with that?
A.
Yeah, because she's answering her question. So Mama answered, very good. And then she says a little bit more here. She says, but the other is quick on his feet. So we're putting quotation marks around all the things that are said here. And then Grace in this last one, oh, what attribution would fit there? There's two left.
The little bird cried.
Good. The little bird cried. And obviously, cried here is not a boo-hoo cry, right? It's like, oh, like a reaction. And then quotes around this part, the smaller one has fallen in. Uh-oh. And then at the very end, it says, well, pride goes before a fall. That's also spoken. Oops, I forgot to cross this out. So there's one left. Which one is it, Harmony, for the last one?
Mama wisely concluded.
Good. Mama wisely concluded. So the reason we're doing this page, this is just a practice page together, just to show you that sometimes in a sentence, in a speaking sentence, when somebody's talking in your story, sometimes the attribution comes first and then the quote. Sometimes the quote comes first and then the attribution. And sometimes the quote is split up between two parts. And that's when you have the first half of the quote and then the attribution in the middle and then the rest of the quote. So those are three different ways that you can write sentences with speaking parts. Okay, that's the practice today. It's pretty easy. All right, let's move on to page 165. And how about Christian, when you're ready, go ahead and read the sentence today.
Robin, I can't believe my eyes, cried the stranger. That shot was a magnificent shot.
There you go.
I'll gladly join your band.
Okay, good. So we got some speaking parts here. We're going to have to figure out where all those are. But first, let's look at that vocabulary word is magnificent. And that just means extraordinary or superb, like the best, right? Okay, put a check there. There's two articles. Let's go ahead and find those real quick. Those are pretty easy to find. And then kind of feel like it would be good to find the speaking parts next, and then we can kind of break this up a little bit. So Grayson, where are the parts that are being spoken in these sentences here?
Robin, I can't believe my eyes.
Good. All the way to eyes. Good.
The shot was magnificent. Shot. That was a miss.
Yeah, and so I think it's going to keep going after that too.
I will gladly join your band.
Yeah, so he's talking to Robin. The stranger is talking to Robin. Good. It kind of helps to see where these quotation marks are. So Robin, I can't believe my eyes. That's something that's said. And then that shot all the way to the band. So let's put a check by quotation marks. I just wanted to get that out of the way so we could see that. 6 nouns. So Harmony, where are the 6 nouns in here?
Okay, go. Robin,
Okay, Robin.
stranger,
Okay,
shot,
good.
shot,
Shot again, good.
shot again. This last one. Band,
Band. And I think there's one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, there's one more.
eye,
Eyes. Very good. EYES. Good. Nice job. And then Christian, pronouns.
I and I.
Good. I and I. Obviously, those need to be capitalized. It looks weird when it's lowercase, so we'll just kind of move ahead on that one just because that's bugging me, right? We need to make sure they're capital. How about the adjectives, Grayson? So here's your clue with those. You're going to look at the nouns and then look before the nouns. Is there anything that tells like which one or what kind or how many? Those
Magnificent.
good. Yes, that's an adjective.
Your.
Good, except for that's wrong too, huh? Did you notice it's you are banned? So your we got to fix. How should we spell that, Grayson?
Your.
Yes, there you go. And that is an adjective, so I'm going to put that on top of that too. Okay, what else?
My.
Good.
Uh, will.
Not will, that's going to be a verb. So what about what shot it was? I know you said magnificent here, but look before this shot. Which shot was it?
That.
That shot. So that becomes an adjective. There, I think you got it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And then there's two adverbs. Harmony, do you know where the adverbs are?
Can't.
You're right, except for it's the that not in can't, right? Because the can part is a verb. So the not, we're gonna have to kind of squeeze it in right over the not part. That's one of them. Do you see the other one?
Where's your other?
The other one's got ly.
Natalie.
There you go. Good. All right. I'm going to jump down to verbs next. So Christian, verbs, and then Grayson, you'll find the subjects.
Will, cried, can, and then the T. Or is
Okay, can,
was,
was,
joined.
join.
I think that's all.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are we missing one? Oh, yeah, we are missing one. Maybe you already said it.
Let's see. It was can, cried, will, join.
Yeah, it's toward the
Was.
beginning. It's I can't what?
Believe. I forgot.
Yeah. Okay. That's the last one. Believe. Good. Okay. And then Grayson, there's a bunch of verbs in here. There's going to be 4 subjects. So what subjects go with these verbs?
Robin.
Actually, not Robin,
I.
because yeah, there you go. I can't believe.
Shot.
Yeah, the shot was a magnificent shot. Good.
I.
I again.
Your.
So your band is not going to be a subject because this is an adjective here, but cried the stranger. This is one of those rare times when the subject comes after the verb. So who was it that cried?
The stranger.
Yes, so that becomes the subject. Sometimes it's after the verb, which is rare whenever there's a speaking part. Okay, just to review, the subjects are I here, stranger, shot, and I again. So those are the 4 subjects. And now the main clauses, there's 4 of them in here, but that's for you, Harmony. I'm going to give you a clue about this right here, Robin. That's called a noun of direct address. So it's just addressing Robin. So in the main clause, we're not going to include the word Robin. Okay. That's one clue, but go ahead and tell us where you think the main clauses are.
Let's go. Tell her. I can't believe my eyes.
Good. Okay, perfect. That's one main clause.
Cried the stranger.
Good. That's another main clause. Good.
So there's four. But was a magnificent shot.
Good. That's a main clause.
I will gladly join your band.
Excellent. That's perfect, Harmony. Good job. Each one of those main clauses has subject verb pairs in there. The only one that was not included is this word Robin because it's called a noun of directed address. Okay, that's addressing the person. All right, got done with the market list. Now the fix it we're just going to put in that indent symbol here because that's going to be a new paragraph. The capitals, we got the I's. Oh, we're missing an end mark. That's what we got to figure out next. We know there's a period at the end here. But Christian, where does the other end mark go? What are we missing?
After shot.
Well, it's already there. That one's already there. That stays
No, after eyes.
after eyes. And what should we put? What kind of an end mark do you think?
Exclamation mark.
I agree. It's like, because it says cried the stranger. So he's saying, I can't believe my eyes. So dramatic. So we need an exclamation mark there. Good. And that means, well, cried still stays lowercase here. Let's see, we're missing a capital. What are we missing? Oh, that. There it is. So we have Robin, I, these are the capitals. That, and I again. And we got the homophone. The last thing is the comma. So here's the question. Do we put one in or do we take one out? What do you think, Grayson?
Put one in
Where does it go?
after Robin.
Yes, because it is a noun of direct address. So he's saying Robin. It's like he's getting his attention. Robin, I can't believe my eyes. I can't believe my eyes. Okay. We did it. Good job, you guys. Any questions about this page or anything about grammar? No? Okay, good. All right then. You guys have been working on, oh yes, your paper about a place. That's what you've been working on. And we're going to keep working on that. So go ahead and get out from your front pocket the paper you've been working on or whatever you have for writing about a place. I know, Christian, you're writing about Disneyland. Grayson, are you writing about Hawaii? Is that right?
Bakersfield.
Oh, that's right, Bakersfield. Okay, because I have two Graysons. So let me put this here. Bakersfield. And then what are you working on, Harmony? What place are you writing about?
Disneyland.
Okay, Disneyland. Good. Okay, I'm going to put that down here so I can remember. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about with you guys is that example paper that came in your little packet. So go ahead and get out the stuff from your front pocket, and there's actually a sample page in there. It looks like this. We didn't get to talk about this last week. It says Andrew Pudawa right here, and that's his last name, Pudawa. But this is the actual person who wrote this whole curriculum. His name is Andrew Pudawa, and he actually invented this style of writing. So pretty cool guy. I've never met him in person, but I watch a lot of his videos, so I know who he is. Anyway, he wrote a story. And I want to go through some of this with you just to see how he set this up, because this is a model for how I want you to set up your papers too. So the first thing we're going to do is just look at that first paragraph here. And by the way, the title is called Blessed by Beauty. That's the title of his paper. I want you to notice something about that first paragraph. He doesn't give away the place until toward the end of the paragraph. And that's a technique that's really good to practice when you're writing about something like this, which is inventive writing, right? We're finding information from our own brains. But we don't want to put the title in the name of the place in the title. Like if you wrote about Disneyland, you don't want to call it Disneyland right away because you want the reader, whoever's reading your paper, to not know right away. There's something about waiting and anticipating what the place is that makes it more enjoyable to read. So I'm going to read just the first paragraph. We're going to look for that, where the place is, because we don't know. It just says blessed by beauty. We don't know what place it is yet. And in that first paragraph, another thing I want you to practice is looking for the dress-up words and the openers. And we're going to talk about that too, because he doesn't have any of them marked. So as I'm reading it, you guys can mark them, and then we'll go back and talk about that. So I'm just going to read the first paragraph. Softly rocking and swaying on our sailboat, I gazed into the crystal green depths. I'm going to pause right there for a second. So he's setting up, kind of like setting up the scene, kind of like giving us a visual. We don't know where he's at yet. We know he's on the water in a sailboat. But did you guys notice softly is a number 3 opener? So I'm just going to write it in there because we're also seeing how he used the checklist in this. And then it says, I was surrounded by water that beckoned to me, as did the bright white sand across the cove. So we know we're on water, there's a cove, it sounds cool. Above the beach rose the brown and green dotted hills, while opposite the shore, in the far distance, the vague outline of the mainland was sometimes visible. I know that above is a preposition, so this is going to be, I'm just going to squeeze it in right there, a number 2 opener. So far we know he's on a sailboat. It's green and it sounds like maybe there's an island because there's land across the shore. Sounds like an island somewhere. And the vague outline of the mainland was sometimes visible. So probably meaning like there was probably fog, like you could see it sometimes, but you can't see it all the time. And then it goes right here. My family, almost every weekend of every summer of my youth, anchored at Catalina Island, which lies approximately 20 miles off the coast of Los Angeles. So there it is, Catalina Island. So notice he didn't say it right away. He kind of gave a little lead into that. That's the place he's writing about, is Catalina Island. And I see some other words in here, which will go ahead and underline the dress ups as you see them too, but I'll tell you those at the end. It was a boys' paradise playground because I could build castles and forts endlessly on the sandy beach, climb huge rocks and up steep hills, as well as extensively explore the underwater world. Remember, this is the inventor of this curriculum. So his writing is really what I call flowery. Like he likes to add a lot of adjectives and a lot of descriptive words, which is good. I like this too. So, okay, that's the first paragraph. Did you guys find some of the dress up words in there? Thumbs up if you found some of them. Yeah. So I see toward the beginning right here, as that's one of the Asia words. And then there's multiple of these verbs. So I saw anchored, that's a good verb. There's other verbs too. So if you underlined something different for a strong verb, that's okay too. I saw which for a which clause. By the way, there's the word while. So if you underlined while for an Asia word, that's okay too. He used more than one. I found that word because for the because clause. And then a bunch of LYs. I'm going to underline approximately, but there's also extensively is in there. So he uses a bunch, like I said. So find some of those as your dress up. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Oh, adjective. I'm going to choose paradise playground. Paradise is explaining the playground, but there's other adjectives in there. They're like brown and green dotted. Those are adjectives. Just pick one of them and underline them. So you can see he used way more than one of the dress ups, and that's okay. And we only underline one in our stories, but it's good to use more than one. And then I want to point out the 3 topics that he listed in that last part of the paragraph. There's 3 things about Catalina Island that he focused on for his body paragraphs. And one of them is build castles. So find where it says build castles and put a box around it like that. And then he talked about climbing rocks and up steep hills. So put a box around climb and rocks. And then at the very end, he talks about exploring the underwater world. So put a box around underwater world. So you're going to notice this is the pattern, and we're going to talk about this for your paper about the place that you're writing about. But I wanted you to see the pattern in this paper. So we got all the dress ups and stuff and the openers and everything. But I wanted you to also see at the end of the introduction, he lists the 3 topics: build castles, climb rocks, and underwater world. So the first topic that he lists is building castles. So jump down to the next paragraph, and he has a long sandy beach provides all the raw materials needed for endless building. That's what he's talking about, building castles. So put a box around endless building. That's the first topic. It matches build castles. Now it's not exactly, but it's referring to that. Okay, so it's kind of like reflecting that. He's building endless building. I think we should also put a box around the word material. And material just means like what he's using to build these castles. They're sand castles, but it could be sticks or rocks or shells that he uses too to build these things. And then I want you, we're not going to have time to read the whole paragraph, and you can read this later if you want to read his whole paper. But jump down to the end, because this is where we're going to look for the topic clincher. Because in the body paragraphs, you have topic clinchers. You guys know that rule. It must repeat or reflect 2 or 3 key words. Remember that? Okay, so look at the very last sentence here. It starts with but. But of course, because the waters of the tide would level our creation by the next morning, we would enjoy beginning anew with our endless abundance of construction material. Well, I see that word endless. Let's put a box around endless. That's repeating. And then I see construction and material. I'm going to put a box around both of those because material and material, those 2 repeat. And then we have the word building and construction. Oops, sorry. There's a little glare right there. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm seeing the pattern here with the topics. Okay, we listed the topics in the introduction, and now this first paragraph reflects that first topic, which is build castles. He didn't use the word castles, but you know that's what he's talking about. He'll use it, I think, later in this paragraph, but we have material, endless building, and then endless construction material. Those are the topic clinchers. Okay, so we got that. The next topic he lists in the introduction is climb rocks. So we're going to look to see if he talks about that in the next paragraph. And it says, In the afternoons, the wind would usually pick up and the rocks or hills called us upward. So we've got rocks and we've got hills here too. We can put a box around hills. But he's talking about climbing rocks. I know we have a box around climbing. We could put a box actually around upward, right? Because that's basically the same thing as climbing. But notice that's his second topic he listed in the introduction. And now he's talking about it here in this paragraph. Let's look for those keywords in the last sentence. So go ahead and turn it over because this paragraph continues on the back. And we've got the last sentence says right here, whether hiking up hills or exploring the rocky shore, it was always an adventurous afternoon. So we've got hills and we've got rocky. I'm going to put rocky in a box and hiking up. Same thing as climbing up the hills. So I got hiking, hills, and rocky. Okay, if I flip it back over to the introduction paragraph, we have build castles, that's in this paragraph. We have climbing rocks, that's in the next paragraph. And the last topic that's mentioned in the first paragraph is underwater world. So now let's look at the third body paragraph. Back here, that first sentence says, usually I went by myself to explore the world underwater alone because I loved the freedom and solitude. So we've got explore and world and underwater. There he is talking about the world underwater. He probably went snorkeling or something, or maybe just swimming in the water, checking things out. And then at the end here, the last sentence of that body paragraph says, it was easy to spend hour after hour exploring the ever swaying, ever fascinating realm beneath the waves. So we've got exploring, put a box around that, and then beneath waves. That's reflecting the topic clincher. So he did those three things. He built sandcastles. He hiked or climbed rocks and hills. And he explored the underwater. Those are the three topics. So now we're to the conclusion paragraph. And now we're going to see where he lists those in the conclusion, because that's the pattern I want you to see for that too. Because this week, you're going to work on your introduction paragraph and your conclusion paragraph. So, in many ways, my childhood was exceptional, even idyllic. Given the regular opportunity to have so much time outdoors, close to nature with family, and also alone. But for me, it was normal. My father loved the ocean. He loved to sail. He loved to get away from the busyness of the city. And he loved the peace he found at Catalina Island. Unwittingly, I was a beneficiary, for I truly believe that the climbing of rocks, well, he lists them in a different order here, but climbing of rocks, let's put a box around that because he's mentioning one of his topics here. The many hours of imaginary building of forts and sandcastles. Let's put a box around building. He does talk about sandcastles and forts here. And especially the time exploring the silent and colorful world below the surface. So let's put a box around world. Oops, and then below the surface. That's the underwater world that he talked about in the beginning. So there they are, the three topics. And then he says, most significantly, I want you to circle that part. Put a circle around most significantly. However, I believe it was the time alone in nature that enriched my heart as I breathed in the various elements of natural creation, which then strengthened me for the challenges of adolescence and later in life. I am still truly grateful for the beauty that nurtured my soul. Okay, so there you have it. In the introduction, he listed those three topics, and then those became individual paragraphs in the middle. And then in the conclusion, he listed them again and included most significant. That's the pattern I want you guys to see. So now go ahead and get out the next page, which is this one, page 169. And we're going to start working on the template here for your conclusion and your introduction. So think about the three topics that you have in your paper that you are working on. You should have three of them. And I have them written down, most of them anyway. Let me look at my notes really quick. So for Christian, you have, I think you wrote about Disneyland, right? And you wrote about the rides and the food in the shops. Okay. Grayson, remind me what the three topics were that you wrote about Bakersfield.
Oil, food, and football.
Oil, food, football, that's right. And then Harmony, do you remember what three topics you chose for Disneyland for yours?
Rides, characters, and parade.
Good. Okay. So think of your three topics. That's the first step here. It says you're gonna write a sentence or two about each topic and try to convey the main idea of each body paragraph. Highlight or bold the topic keywords. I'm gonna have you think of one sentence for each. Excuse me, but when you go to write this, you can add more sentences in between, but you want to list these three topics just like Andrew did in his paper. So for each of you, you have a different topic A, topic B, and topic C. Think of a concluding sentence, kind of wrapping up your experience with those topics. So like for A, Harmony, you would say a concluding sentence about the rides, like maybe pointing out your favorite ride, or you can talk about how the rides are all adventurous and enjoyable, or some rides were scarier than others, some kind of a sentence about the rides next to A. And then Grayson, you're going to write something about the oil in Bakersfield, kind of a concluding information about the oil in Bakersfield, something like, do you have a sentence in mind? It looks like you're writing already. And then Christian, yours is going to be about the rides at Disneyland too, okay? So go ahead and just work first on topic A. And I know this is a keyword outline, but this is where I like to put a whole sentence on these templates. So you can write a whole sentence here. You have to write kind of small. And go ahead and go on to topic B and topic C. And write a sentence for each and think of a concluding sentence that kind of wraps up your experience with that topic. Okay. And the other thing I want you to do is put a box around wherever the word is that reflects. I'm just putting random boxes in here, but after you write your sentence, put a box around, like for Christian and Harmony, you'll put a box around rides, wherever the word is in the sentence for A. And then for Christian, you're for B, topic B, you'll make a sentence about the foods and then put a box around the food. And then for C, for you, Christian, about the shops. Harmony, yours is going to be rides and then something about the characters and then something about the parade and put a box around those words. So I'll give you a minute to work on that by yourself. Let me know if you guys need any help. A couple more minutes here. Okay, give me a thumbs up when you got A, B, topic A, B, and C. Okay, good, Grayson. Go ahead and read what you got.
Oil really is a huge thing in Bakersfield.
Okay,
The food here is definitely great and tasty.
good.
Bakersfield has a rich tradition of making NFL or football stars.
Okay, good. I like that. I wonder for topic A, can you think of a different word other than thing? I wonder how you could say that about the oil. Is there another word you could use there instead of thing? I'm thinking of, oh, did you think of one, Grayson?
Oil really is a huge part in Bakersfield.
Yes, it's a huge part, but I'm thinking of the word commodity. I don't know if you know that word commodity. Commodity just means something that is produced in Bakersfield and Kern County that brings money to the economy. So oil is huge, really huge for that in Bakersfield and agriculture, actually. But maybe change thing to commodity. And that would be more specific on that. Go ahead, Grayson.
Oil really is a huge commodity in Bakersfield.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds really good. Good job. And then Grace, or I mean, Christian, are you still working on yours or are you finished?
I'm on C.
On C? Okay. Do you need some help with it or you got it?
No, I just need one last word.
Okay. And Harmony, did you finish yours? How about you read what you have, Harmony, so far?
The rides are amazing.
Nice.
It's fun to meet all of the characters.
Good.
The parade is exciting to watch.
Perfect. I like that. All those adjectives you used, I'm glad you picked different ones for each sentence. That sounds really good. I like it. Good job. Okay, Christian, if you're still thinking on that last one, you
No,
can.
I got it now.
Oh, you got it. Okay, go ahead and read what you got then.
Most of the rides at Disneyland are fun, others not so much.
Okay,
The food they have tastes very good.
good.
Shops at Disneyland charge a lot, but their stuff is durable.
Yes. Okay, good. The one about the food, I think you used the word good, and that's actually a
Oh,
banned word. Yeah. So what could you say instead of good? How can you describe when a food tastes good? What's the word we use for that?
delicious.
Yeah, that would be a good one. That's better than good. Good is kind of, we use it a lot sometimes, so we want to try to think of other ways to say that. Okay, the next section right here is about the most significant. We've talked about this before, and there's a little paragraph at the top. They want you to think about what was the most important, most interesting, or most significant thing to remember about all that you wrote about and why. You may choose one of your topics and tell why it is the most significant, or you may choose something that tells the importance of the entire subject. So you can pick a topic or talk about the most significant thing about Bakersfield or the most significant thing about Disneyland. And I like the way that Andrew started his. He put this most significantly. Go ahead and write that in there. And then a comma. And then you're going to continue that sentence most significantly and tell something either about one of the topics or the place as a whole. Like I'll go back to his sentence really quick. He said, most significantly, however, I believe it was the time alone in nature that enriched my heart as I breathed in the various elements of natural creation. So you can say something like, most significantly, Bakersfield is a blank, like important part of Kern County because of its oil production, something like that. It really is because Bakersfield has Oildale. We all know Oildale and all those oil rigs out there and Taft, but that's not part of Bakersfield. But anyway. And then you want to tell why. So it can be part of that same sentence. You can use the word because and keep going in the sentence, or you can do a separate sentence explaining why it's most significant. You got it, Christian? Yeah, what did you say?
But most significantly, I believe that the greatest things about Disneyland are the rides.
Okay. And do you want to keep going with because, or do you want to make a separate sentence? You got to have either keep going with because
I'll
or
keep
use,
going
yeah, and then tell why.
because they are very fun.
Why is that most significant though? We already know it's fun. Why is that the most important?
It's the reason that most people go to Disneyland. So, because that's why most people go.
So maybe instead of saying fun, yeah, you could talk about how most people go there. Maybe use the word like entertaining or one thing I like about Disneyland's rides is there's a lot of characters in the rides and it's themed. I like that about Disneyland. Like you can go to different parts of the park where it's themed. The other theme parks don't have that. Like you go to Tomorrowland or you go to uh I forget all the names of the parts, you know what I mean? Tomorrowland, the one I think of. Adventureland. So maybe explain how the rides are different themes. That makes it significant. I don't know. Like when you go to Magic Mountain, they're all just like roller coasters, right? There's not a whole lot of themes to them.
That what Y is for?
Yeah. So you can keep writing. Yeah, you can keep writing on these lines, but that's why the Y is there. Exactly. Okay, what do you have, Grayson?
Most significant largest oil towns in the world.
Sorry, you glitched out for a second. Can you say it one more time?
Most significantly, Bakersfield is one of the largest oil towns in the world.
Yes.
Then why? Because of how small the town is compared to Houston, Nashville, and other huge cities.
Okay, good. Did you say because of though? Because we don't want to say because. And you could take off of, but you can keep that sentence going. I know it's a long sentence, but that's a good one to end it on. Does that make sense, Grayson? Okay, good. And then since you used the word because, and you did too, Christian, you guys can underline that as one of your dress ups. And you can underline significantly for that matter as your ly adverb. Harmony, do you have a sentence here for most significantly? Or oh, it looks like you're still working. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over because we're running out of time, but Harmony, you can keep working on yours if you need to. On the back side of this page is the introduction, and that's the last thing that we write. In the way this program is set up, you're basically writing from the inside out. You started with your body paragraphs, and now we did the conclusion and the introduction. So the introduction is going to have a few things to it. One is an attention getter. Now, this can be a few different things. You can begin with a question, it says up here, a fact or statistic, or a very short sentence. Remember those VSS sentences that we have in grammar? So you can think of an attention getter. And if you like the idea of a fact or a statistic, you can actually look up a fact online or a quote about Disneyland or about Bakersfield. And you would make sure to tell who said the quote if you pick something online. So if you like the idea of looking online for a quote, you can do that later. If you want to think of a question, it could be something as simple as, have you ever been to Disneyland before? Or did you know that Disneyland is in California? Or some kind of a question about Disneyland. Or did you know there are many reasons why Bakersfield is famous? That could be a good question. So those are the three options. You can do a question, you can do a VSS, like Disneyland is amazing. Woohoo! That's a VSS, only 3 words, right? Or a quote. Okay, so I'll let you think about that one. And then it says background. And this is where you're going to give a little bit of information leading up to your topics, just like Andrew Pudawa did in his paper. Remember how he kind of set it up like um, he kind of gave how Catalina looked. Oh, and by the way, I forgot about that. I messed up because you don't want to ask your question about the actual subject yet because you want to keep it a surprise. I like how Andrew did that. He didn't mention Catalina until like almost the end of the paragraph. So maybe attention getter question could be something more generic, like, have you ever seen an oil rig? Something like that about Bakersfield, but not giving away Bakersfield yet. Does that make sense? Or for Disneyland, um, have you ever seen characters on rides? I'm having a hard time thinking of really great questions, but you guys can take your time thinking about that later. So don't give it away actually in that first one. But the background could be a little bit more information about your place. Like for Disneyland, maybe a background without giving away that it's Disneyland right away. Something about an attraction or a theme park in California, in Los Angeles, giving background information about a person named Walt Disney. I mean, people might know that you're talking about Disneyland, but at least you're not saying it till later in the paragraph. Okay. So a little background information, and you'll probably need to think about that later and then check it out. We have topic A, B, and C again. So not exactly what you wrote here for the conclusion. You don't want it to be too repetitive, but you want to use those same topic words, but change up the sentence a little bit. And I'm just going to put those random boxes in here because you want to box those topic words. Change it up a little bit. This time you're going to think, how would I introduce this to someone? So for Disneyland, how do you introduce the rides? You might explain that it's like you sit down in it. It's a car that you buckle yourself into and you go on in fast around corners, something like that for A. So I'm going to give you, well, actually, I just looked at my clock. That went by fast. So take your time on this. It's hard to do it in the middle of class because you're kind of limited on time, but think through these things, this part. So your job this week is to work on the introduction and the conclusion of the paper you already have going with your body paragraphs. So at the end of this week, you'll turn in 5 paragraphs, but you already should have the 3 finished. Okay? Any questions about the homework or anything we talked about today? Nope, you guys are good. Awesome. All right, then. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye, you guys. Have a good one. Bye.